Hi, so a couple of thoughts on Lucy Letby. First off, I'm going to be doing less videos for a bit. I've signed up for a course, so I'll be busy with that. So to start off with, I mentioned that I'd seen something about a possible ban in my last video. So I've chased it up a bit more, and it looks like it's related to if the case was opened up again. I don't think that's very likely for the foreseeable future at any rate. So I've seen, today I've seen a couple of good videos. Mervyn raised a really interesting point, and it's to do with the language that was used in the closing statement by the prosecution. And the guy, I can't, what was his name? I've forgotten. Nicholas, I think he wasn't he Nicholas something for the prosecution? But he kept saying, what are the chances of that? And he kept referring to coincidence. And I think because this is normal psychology, it instilled in the jury the idea that there were a lot of coincidences in this case, and that would automatically make her guilty. Now, I don't know how intentional this language was. It may not have been totally intentional, even though this was the prosecution, and obviously it's their job to prosecute. But the idea of coincidence, people believe in coincidence as something a lot more unusual than it actually is, whereas it's very, very commonplace. It is surprisingly commonplace, but most people, we believe it's something quite exceptional. So this is where I think the jury would have actually had a false impression of Lucy being guilty because she happened to be coincidentally there. So I think whether this was intentional or not, this was still prejudicial language, and I think maybe how a case is presented needs to be looked at, maybe to avoid this happening, so that juries convict because of a perception of something rather than considering the facts. That was my first point. And Lucy Letby analysis, he's been looking at a lot of transcripts from the cases, and I got to about Baby O because he does quite long videos, and I was actually thinking, well, around this time, but by the time they got to Baby O, and this was quite tragic what happened, because at Baby O, this was a series of mistakes. So he was put on the ventilator, but the ventilator was switched up too high. I think there was something else, and obviously this is the one where the needle pierced his liver. So many mistakes happened with this baby, but this was happening at a time when the rumour mill that Lucy Letby was possibly harming babies, that was already established, very well established by that point. And I'm kind of having some difficulty wrapping my head round, you know, the individual involved in this scenario was the same one who'd been putting out this rumour and the draw of doom for a very long time, and then, you know, he's involved in this. How exactly does that work? Because that would be very, very cold-blooded, even if you truly believed someone was, you know, harming babies, to then say, well, she did that one as well. That seems, you know, I can't really describe how far out that actually seems to me. So, yeah, moving on a little bit. Our friend Dewi Evans. So we're like, I guess a lot of us, we're like, gosh, he should be ashamed of himself. How does he sleep at night? I've probably said this before in another video, but I feel like saying it again if I have. You know, how on earth does he sleep at night? How does he live with himself? Oh, perfectly fine. I can tell you now, he lives with himself perfectly fine. And, you know, I think every time he realises someone is calling him out and, you know, suggesting that he's being hurtful, or, you know, he should be ashamed of himself, I bet that makes him feel even happier with himself. I really think he actually does have that mentality. So I'm certainly, I think it's good that we, you know, call out what the situation is, for sure. You know, certainly that he published some, well, he didn't publish, but it was in the news, in the South Wales Evening Post, that he'd made some outrageous and very dodgy comments, and we absolutely should call out stuff like that. But I'm going to keep it just very factual for myself, and you know, not really get upset about him, because he's just a very average, I think personally, he's a very, very average person, very average paediatrician, and he does these things and he says these things because he wants to feel power and he wants to feel special. And some of us just see through that. So, now, should we be trying to free Lucy Letby? Okay, bear with me for a bit. It is certainly looking more and more that, I mean, it's obvious that this trial has not gone the way a trial should. It looks more and more like a very, very big miscarriage of justice. So, should we be trying to free Lucy Letby? Now, the reason I say this is because I think as long as there's a constant, oh, free Lucy Letby, free Lucy Letby, which is the right sentiment, there's a couple of people looking on at all that and twiddling their thumbs and going, because it takes the heat off them. Should we maybe looking at going after a couple of certain individuals and doing our best to make sure they are brought to justice, because it's looking more and more obvious that they've lied, they've wasted police time, they've made false accusations, and also their medical practice. I mean, I don't know how guilty they'd be of medical malpractice or any actual crimes connected with that. But as long as everyone is going free Lucy Letby, and we should be trying to free Lucy Letby, but as long as that's the main call, it takes the heat off some other people who maybe should be being brought into the spotlight a lot more and being investigated quite closely. So yeah, that's my thoughts for today. So please like, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video.